Hey, it's Jeremy from OpticHouse.com. So, I am painting a piece that I drew, and I posted a video not too long ago of a piece I call Bruised. So, I'm doing a digital coloring in Procreate on the iPad with this one, and I'm still kind of finding my sea legs with the app because I tried sort of laying out flats so I could make selections, and that didn't seem to necessarily work with the painterly style that this software has. So instead, I decided to just sit down and work out a value painting, trying to focus purely on working in grayscale first, laying out all the blacks and whites, and basically trying to create as complete a painting or image as possible just in black and white before adding any color. And I definitely think that this is sort of a way to go for paintings in general, regardless of what medium you're working in. I mean, if you're doing traditional painting, yeah, you would probably want to work it out, do a value study so that you could just go directly to the final colors you want in the actual painting. But once you've got your values worked out, your lights and your darks, then basically most color schemes you can experiment with color schemes, but as long as your colors are adhere to those tonal values, and those tonal values are worked out in terms of the proper lights and dark, the balance of them, then most color schemes are going to work out pretty well. I think that I went probably a bit too light on her skin tones. They're definitely lighter than I wanted them to be. Well, not lighter than they wanted them to be. They came out properly in terms of the final piece, as you'll see as it develops. But the highlights on her face are probably brighter than the highlights should be on someone's skin, particularly if you adhere to the idea that you really only use white for your whitest whites. Which in this case, I knew the shirt that she was going to be wearing was going to be a white shirt. So, in that case, it was appropriate to make it as white as I did. But, her skin tones in comparison are probably still lighter than they should be. One of the interesting things is that I also have been trying to paint the colors of the value of the backgrounds of the piece, the environment that the figure or figures will be in the piece before I go in and color the actual character. However, in this one, I knew I kind of wanted to have sort of a I wanted to have like bright pink hair, kind of like an Asian punk girl who's doesn't play nice with people and is kind of like rough and ready to fight, kind of like a punk schoolgirl look. And I couldn't decide what colors I wanted for the environment. And my wife actually recommended, well, on this one, why don't you color her hair first, since that's going to be the most striking thing, and then pick the background around what fits well with that hair. And at first I was kind of hesitant because I was thinking, well, the hair is going to be tinted by the environment, so what might normally be like a bright pink may end up being a blue or a green, depending on the environmental colors. But in the end, coloring it all pink first, and then picking the background color, which I ended up going with sort of a teal, because I wanted something that gave it a nice contrast. That seemed to just settle out pretty well. Anyway, I'm still tempted to experiment with Photoshop a little bit more and go back and forth between painting in Photoshop versus Procreate, because Procreate doesn't have necessarily as many, I can't use as many layers as I'd like, and the tools aren't necessarily as refined. There's being able to make selections, and using flats for one thing makes a big deal in me doing a digital painting. And on the other hand, just having the multiple layers so I can have different versions of things, kind of undo and redo and experiment. Yeah, I like working with this tool, and I think I'm going to continue working with it, but I also want to go back and forth and not abandon Photoshop completely, because it's definitely the more flexible of the two. Anyway, that's it for now. Check out my website, optichouse.com, and go be creative.